Hello and welcome. My name's Merritt Passero and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I'm so glad you joined me for another Crush on Stamping video. With all the goodies released in the 2017 Holiday Stampin' Up! Catalog this year, it's easy to get overwhelmed. Having been a demonstrator for over 17 years, I've learned to identify products which are a good investment for my new stampers, but still provide a wow factor for my seasoned stampers. The Good Tidings stamp set, which is found on page 8 of this catalog, hits all those high points. So here are two samples that Stampin' Up! Provided, and they're really beautiful. But I wanted to take a much more deeper look at the stamp set. So here's how the stamp set comes. It comes in a box like this, and you can see that, hopefully you can see that it's photopolymer. Here's what the suggested blocks are, A, G, and D. I use other stamp blocks when I'm stamping, but those are what fit just right. There's also this little two-step stamping logo, and I'll explain more about that in a little bit. There's 14 pieces in the set, and here are the images. So let's take a deeper look at this. And some of the stamp images kind of look a little funny. Let me just show you that. They look a little incomplete. And so hopefully by stamping these out for you, you're going to be able to understand how they actually go together. So since it is photopolymer, we do want to use our Stampin' Pierce mat. I've covered mine with a piece of scratch paper to collect all the excess ink that may come from overstamping. And the first stamp that I want to ink up in this set is the greeting. It's a really good sized greeting, meaning it's large, and what I like about it is that it actually has a mixture of fonts. So I think that gives you a much more interesting image. So when you're stamping photopolymer, you ink it up, you stamp it down using your mat, and you hold it down for just a little bit longer than you would the other types of stamps, so that you can transfer the ink to the paper. So there's that Good Tidings of Great Joy. There's also a inside stamp or another verse stamp, and I'll stamp that for you. It says, "May the gift of peace, love, and happiness be yours this season." So there that is, and that's in Old Olive. There's also a to and a from stamp. They're actually two separate stamps. I've gone ahead and mounted them on the same block, and I'll ink those up in Old Olive as well. But you could ink them up separately on different blocks and do your to in the red and your from in the green, or however you want to do it. So here's the word greetings or words in the stamp set. Let's move on to the images. So we talked that this was a two-step stamping set. And what does that mean? That means that it's a stamp set that features multiple stamps that are meant to layer together to create a multi-dimensional or multicolored image. So we have one stamp that's got more surface area and one stamp that has just kind of some highlights or shading. So when you stamp this stamp in a light colored ink, and then you stamp this one in a darker colored ink, you actually create depth or dimension and multicolors on one image, and that's the beauty of a two-step stamp. So you want to remember that the large first stamp that you stamp down is the light color, and then this is the dark. If you were to reverse that and stamp the bottom image in a dark color and then try to go over the top in a lighter color, you're not going to be able to see what you've stamped on top of that image. So hopefully that makes sense as to why you do it in the order you do it. So I'm going to take the large solid stamp of this beautiful holly leaf, and I'm going to ink it up in Pear Pizzazz. So that's my light shade of green. Again, holding it down just a little bit, and hopefully you can see how that makes such a beautiful image. Then I'm going to take the highlight or second layer of this two steps and ink that up in the Old Olive. Now with this stamp set, I have found that I prefer to stamp the holly leaves upside down, or have them upside down when I'm looking at it, and that's because I can use these edges to line up my stamp, and then also I just try to turn the stamp so that I can hit this top one, and then I usually do a fairly good job of lining that up. It doesn't have to be perfect, because even if you're off a little bit, it's gonna still come together once you put all the other pieces in with this image. So there's our beautiful old olive over the pear pizzazz. Our next step would be to add the berries, and there's again 2 images for berries, one that's more solid and then some that have some open areas to create shading. So I'm going to use Flirty Flamingo for the bottom or the more solid image. And Flirty Flamingo is actually a pink colored ink. So it seems like it might be kind of an unusual choice, but you'll see why I chose that in just a minute. So I went ahead and stamped that down, so you can see, hopefully, that this is a pink ink. Then I'm going to go back over the top with the shading image in what is called Real Red. So the reason I used the Flirty Flamingo is because I want a lot of contrast. The more contrast there is between colors, the more pop that your image is going to end up with. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, so turning this back around now, I can use the stem pieces in our stamp set. So one has just a simple stem, and then the other one has some extra little shading points. So I inked this one up in our crumb cake, and you can fit these little stamps in between the berries. So there's our crumb cake. And here's our more detailed image, and that is going to go in the soft suede ink color today. Stampin' Up! Has so many beautiful colors, you could certainly pick other ones, but I found that I really kind of like these. Okay, so now you can see how this image just came to life with multiple layers. Each time you add another layer, it just becomes much more realistic and beautiful. And last but not least in the set is a small holly berry leaf, or a small holly, I guess. So there we go with our solid image in the pear pizzazz, and again we're going to go back over the top with our old olive. For our berries, we have 2 separate berry stamps because they all have been designed to go together. Going to go in with that Flirty Flamingo. And then our Real Red. Okay, now that you've seen how these images all stamp out and how they coordinate, I would like to explain why I think that some of them, why it's a great set for beginners and seasoned stampers. First of all, for beginners, it's a complete set. It has artistic images, it has an outside greeting for your card, an inside greeting for your card, and more. You also don't have the need to purchase additional dies or punches to go with it. A pair of scissors and you can cut out your holly leaf quickly, and it'll turn into a great pop-up for your card. For the seasoned stampers, well, it's 2-step stamping, so who doesn't love that? That provides a wow factor. And when you use multiple ink colors, you can get vastly different looks. You'll see some other samples here shortly that show different colors of ink. Also, the inclusion of this to from stamp, this makes the stamp set go beyond card making. You can make giftables this way, so you can make tags to go with items that you have stamped or created. So not only is it good for a Christmas tag, it's going to be good for a birthday tag. So throw a balloon on a tag and your to from, and now you've got a birthday or anniversary tag. So that's the stamp set. Let's take a look at some samples of things that I have created with this stamp set. Here's a card using the Merry Little Christmas DSP. Again, we have the nice inside greeting and a little filler just to coordinate and tie it all together. Here's another sample, Good Tidings of Great Joy. Here's using some wood grain paper and the foil, gold foil paper with a punch. We talked about gift tags, so here is a gift tag that I created with just some leftover pieces that I had actually just had laying around my stamp desk. So I put them together and now I have a nice tag to put onto a package. And here is another card. Now this one has a vellum overlay, so hopefully you can see this. And so it kind of mutes the colors. It has the gold tidings, or the gold embossing of the greeting, but underneath it's really got this bright color palette. So I think that makes it really kind of fun and gives you a whole different look. It's much fresher than the other ink colors that I had used. So just in review for that, with this card, I used rose red for the greeting. For the berries, I used melon mambo on the bottom and rose red on the top. And then for the leaves, I used lemon lime twist for the bottom, the light color, and tranquil tide for the top layer. So, and then of course our crumb cake and soft suede that I used on the other one. And then also here's the palette that we used today, the real red, the pear pizzazz with old olive for the leaves, flirty flamingo for the berries with real red on top, crumb cake and soft suede again. So don't worry about writing any of this down. You can certainly go to my blog to see them in closer pictures. Crushonstamping.com is my blog. And I hope you've enjoyed this in-depth look at the Good Tidings stamp set. And if you would like to see how I created this card, I hope you'll join me for my next video where I show you how it was done. If you don't have a demonstrator but are interested in any of the items that I showed you today, hop on over to my blog, Crushonstamping.com, and you can view them closer or click on the shop button and you'll be taken to my online store. I'd like to thank you for spending some of your precious time with me today. Take care.